Good morning and welcome to this video on types of data in Python. So here we are going to talk about the data type in Python. So Python, as different other languages, has many data type. The first big variety is the numeric type, which is encompasses the type that the different numeric type that you may know, which are integers, floats, and complex. Now, the integer data type here helps to count and do indexing. Let's take for example x equals to 10. If you want to print or want to determine the type of the variable, what do? You do the print, which helps you to print that we saw in the past video, and inside the parentheses you type and type of x. If I run the cell, of course the class will be int. Classes in Python are used in order to indicate the type of either a data or a function and so on. So class is generally used to indicate the type. Uh, Now floats are real numbers in general, if I may say so, and there's practically no limit to the length of the float that you can type. Now, if you take y for example equals to 3.14 and you print type, of course it will be float. Now, one particularity with Python is the complex data type, which is, I may say, unique to this language because the other language doesn't have the complex data type. If you want to deal with complex data type in other language, let me take for example the case of C programming language. You have to initialize a vector where the first element of that vector will be considered as the real part and the second element will be considered as the imaginary part, and you have to work with it like that. And that is how you're going to consider a vector, a complex number in the language. Now, note that here the imaginary part is noted with J, not I, because I is generally used for loops and so on. And in order not to make confusion, the creators of Python decided to use J instead of I. Now, if I run this cell, what will I have? Of course, I have the complex type. Now, let's move on to sequence types. Uh, there are also different types of sequence in Python, and the first one is string. String is generally used to initialize either text or characters, long text or short text, and characters. Uh, if you want to initialize a string type in Python, you can either put what you want to initialize in single quotes or double quotes. And when Python receives this, you automatically connect this as a string. Now let's move on to list. Lists represent an order or collection of items enclosed in square braces, and lists can be modified, and the modification are allowed on the list are you can add elements, you can update, or you can remove elements. Let's consider the list numbers. Of course, if you run the cell, you have the type list. Now, as I mentioned, when you have a list, you can remove an element. Let's okay. Let's suppose you want to, for example, remove the element 5. What we do is we call the list and add the pop to it. Pop means you have to remove the element. Now, 5 is at index position 4. So if you pop 4 and we call back again the list, what do we have? Of course, 5 is no more inside. Now, if you want to add an element in the list, what you will do is numbers, sorry, numbers dot append, and you add the element that you want to add. Let's say, for example, 5 again. 5 and you run. If I want to print it, what do you have? Of course, I have 5 that is back inside our list. Now, you can also modify element. How do you do that? Let me say, if you want to modify element, you call the list and you type the index of the element that you want to modify. Let's say you want to modify the second element, which is at index 1. So what do we do is numbers 1 equals to, let me say, 56, and we print numbers. What do we have? Of course, 2 now is replaced by 56, and that is the characteristic of list, and it's very important in Python because it's very used. Now let's come to tuples. Tuples are the same as lists, but they have some particularities. If you want to define a tuple, you use insert parentheses, and tuple can't be modified. Let's run this cell. Let's have a class tuple. Now let's call the variable points and try to modify the first element. So you see error. Tuple do not accept or doesn't support item assignment. It means that you can't assign value to a tuple. Now, mapping type. Here we are going to talk about dictionaries. Dictionary is a collection of key value pairs enclosed in curly braces. Each key is unique and associated with a value. Now, and they are mutable. Mutable means you can change the element of a key or a value. I mean, you can change element of a dictionary as in list. Now, let's go to the set type. Set are also defined like dictionary in the difference that there's not a pair key or and value rare. Let's look at example at the dictionary here. You see that if you want to initialize dictionary, you have the key and you have the colon. Then you shouldn't forget. Then you have the value. But if you look at the set type, you just have one element, colon, comma, one element, comma, and so on. Now, if I want to, sorry, I didn't print this type. If I want to run this one, you see, of course, the class is set. Now we come to the Boolean type. Boolean type, which is either true or false in Python, are often used on conditional and logical operations to determine the flow of the program. We are going to use it very often as we move on in a series of tutorials. If you want this, of course, a student true, the class or the type of student is Boolean, and also the non-type. Non-type are generally used when you want to initialize a variable without giving it any value. Now you use the non-type. That is it for the data type in Python. Now we are going to talk about conversion. Python allows for conversion for certain type of uh, for a certain type of data. For example, if you want to convert a number or any else into another type, you type the class of what you want to convert and the number or the element that you want to convert. If, for example, I want to convert 3.14 into integer, I type int 3.14, then I run it. Of course, the result will be 3. You're just taking the integer part. Now, you can also do the same. You can convert 3 into float. And when you want to convert an integer into float, the only thing you have to do is to add the decimal part, and you see the result just added the decimal part 0. Now, if you have a complex number and you just need the real part of the complex number, what do? You type the complex number that you want to use. Let's say, for example, 3 plus hj. Then the you add the element real at the end and you print it. Now it just took the real part and printed it. Now let's come back to the Boolean type, which is Okay, let's before that, let's try to see if we can convert string into float or integers. If I, for example, take int of, let me say, of a float, which is John. If I print it, of course there will be a mistake. But if I take int of a string number, it will return me something which is 1. Yes, because John doesn't have a numeric value, but of course 1 has a numeric value. And you can also do this by converting it into float. Now let's come to the Boolean type. As we know, Boolean has only two value, either true or false. Now you can convert the true value into Boolean into a number, and it will always print you 1, and the false will always print you 0. This is because, as you know, true is viewed as on, which is 1, and false is viewed as 0 at off, which is 0. Now you can perform operation with Boolean and numeric type. If, for example, I type false, sorry, false star 1, or let me say 145 15, the what will be the result? Of course, the result will be 0 times 15, which is 0. Now if I type true times 15 or 4 times 45, the result will be 1 times 45, which is of course 35. Now any number that you type, or anything that you type except from true, except from 0, will be always true. If I type bool, if I want to convert, for example, boolean of a string, or let me say John, what will be the result? The result will be true, because there is a value which is different from 0. And no matter what you're going to type inside bool, which is different from 0, and that makes sense, the conversion will be always true. Thank you very much for watching the video, and let's meet in the next video.